Blessed ones, with the tide of the even I am come to sound the wondrous chord of immortal life that ties your hearts to God. Divine harmony echoing through the corridors of the universal presence of being are heard within the temple of each man's life. And so tonight, with the great kindness of the celestial brotherhood, I am come to spread abroad a message of universal harmony, the great harmony of the spheres, whose tones of love do radiate from the planetary hearts and from the solar logos, can be sensed by those whose hearts are attuned with God. Light and tone, color and music, harmony and purity, law and love, quality and quantity of divine abundance showers down upon mankind now and forever. I am come that ye might have life, and that more abundantly. Open wide then the gates of being. Feel the great flood tide of infinite compassion calling, come home, O my children, unto the doorway of right thought, right speech, and right action. Heed the call not for conquest of the world, but for conquest of the finite self. Slay those qualities that deserve not to have life within you, and immortalize those qualities which ought to live forever in the Eden of God, the pure pleasure of being, acknowledging then the celestial tones of pure harmony as one life is harmonized with all. The oneness merging with the all becomes the one. You, precious ones, have felt the same yearning that we of the ascended Master's octave have felt at numerous times previous to our ascension. You have yearned to penetrate the shell that confines you to your own person. You have yearned to merge with the great universal consciousness as a drop of water that hungers for the sea. You have sought to go out into the realm of pure harmony and to feel the love that beats all hearts. That love is God. It knows no compromise, and it cannot be equated with selfishness or with the dust which has not yet fulfilled its destiny. Come then, O precious ones of mankind, into a state of universal consciousness. What reality is born within you in God? What reality in you is not God? What reality in you is God? God is reality, and in this boon of understanding you are transformed from the plane. The common denominator then is God, who transforms you from the plane of common identity and raises you to that uncommon estate. Your lawful inheritance under divine law, under the aegis of Almighty God, where the prodigal one returns home and is clasped to the Father's heart. Mankind today are no different than 2,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago, and if you were to roll back the musty pages of the historical tomes, you would see yourselves in action there in countless past embodiments, and you would recognize then the errors that you have made that have sealed you to the present hour in concepts less than perfection. Shed, O shed then the light of pure truth upon thyself. Open wide the great castle doorways. The iron portcullis must be raised, and the heart of man must become open to the thrust of the mighty light rays from on high. All the dungeon darkness of mankind, dwelling and abiding in that which is less than harmony, must now be cast aside. Man must perceive the purity of the great tonal range of God, to recognize that each individual life stream is intended by Almighty God to be an orchestrated note in the divine harmony, that the pure overtones of spiritual achievement may manifest in all, that the great light of spiritual feeling, the celestial power of God, pouring forth from on high and from within the heart, may become the blessing boon of every individual who will acknowledge the presence of God within the temple and force field of their own being. Ye are not your own. Ye are bought with a price. Ye are God's. For God himself hath given himself unto you. And as the great giver, ever the giver and never the receiver, he hath given all. But the circuit, when it is complete, returns to man the fullness of life. And man will find that at the mercy seat of Almighty God comes that great equalizing power of the Holy Spirit that transforms the consciousness into pure being. Being, precious ones, is not bereft of consciousness, and there is naught within you that is lost when you consummate the chemical marriage, the great spiritual unification, whereby the outer self, coming into union with the pure harmonies of God, is exalted and raised into the celestial octaves of consciousness. Think ye then, O mankind of earth, that they who abide in heaven abide in a lesser state of pleasure and happiness than ye upon this sorrowful ball? I say unto you that if it were not for the angelic host, and for the power of light itself which pours forth day after day, as spiritual speech is uttered in reply to the prayers of mankind, the world would be indeed but a ball of mud and fire and darkness, belching smoke as a furnace, and consuming the dross through natural disaster. But, O mankind, because of the mercy of God and the great love that he has for himself, which he has poured into the vessels that are here below, God has provided a highway of mercy and purity, whereby life can exalt itself and transform itself in the alchemy of becoming the purity of the spirit of life. The great way-showers from on high down through the ages have uttered their speech, and mankind have done unto them as they would. Some they have removed from the screen of life, but I say to you, they have not feared, for they have feared him who hath the power not only to kill body, but also to take from soul the power of consciousness and knowing. And this would be a blessing to some who have cried to the rocks, saying, Fall upon us. For they have not understood the blessing of Almighty God, and have sought refuge in a cave of materiality and darkness. Finding no content there, they have searched the world around, and wander as from shore to shore, and seek God no more, but pale away their life in paths of human din, bereft of all that ennobles man, and finding in the vanity of sin the impurity and mold that consumes the soul itself and takes away the substance thereof. And now the great power of universal love, qualified not by human density or by human reason, but by the light of God that never fails, comes forth through the power of the great white brotherhood. And this night is all around you. The power of the angels is around you this night, and the power of the archangels is released. Their great feeling of divine buoyancy that lifts the soul to higher estate is herein released this night. And the power of the elementals, those blessed tiny beings, miniature ones, but gardeners of God's finite estate, is also released, and the power of their love and spiritual serving is communicated to mankind, and to those who, observing the pathway of service, will desire to overcome all that is mortal in themselves, and to fasten in themselves those festoons of heaven which descend like a ticker parade upon Broadway, upon the victorious homecoming one who returns to the heart of God, because he realizes that he is connected with this great victorious spirit of life and light and love. Chastised then when necessary by the hand of divine law, he becomes obedient and conveys to those who will hear him the great tones of immortal love, not in the sophistry of human vanity, but in the great wisdom outpouring of life that transforms and ennobles, I say, mankind again and again, lifting them each time to a higher estate, until at last their feet are implanted upon the high way and the high road, the road that leads to freedom and universal understanding, eternality blending in the now. This present moment compasses all that is past, and all that is yet to come, and speaketh to every heart, saying, I am one, harmonious whole, the orchestration of perfection soul, the voice of God that maketh whole. O precious ones, why will ye tarry then in mortal delusion, when all around you there is the great fusion, the spiritual completeness of life, the conflagration that ends all strife, in that great becoming, whereby the heathen no more shall rage, or the people shall imagine a vain thing, but in its place shall come the mind of God, the pure mind of God, the pure mind of being, the great flame, the all-seeing eye, compassing all earth and sky, and enfolding all in the knowledge that I am nigh, even at the door of thy being. O precious ones, as I come to you tonight, you will recall that I am known as the great tenor. Well, the tenor of my being and the fiber of my being tonight is one of cosmic unity and wholeness that desires to see the soul of man made malleable, that we may mold and shape and direct the earth and its environs and the entire planetary chain until it no longer is bound and tethered to a senseless round of existence, but to the purity of a Christ and to the great purposes of God, which manifested in that holy child of Bethlehem, and also can, precious ones, blessed be his name, be pressed into thy heart as a rose is pressed into a book, not faded and never will. And this, precious ones, is immortality that comes to you, the great spirit of compassion, the great spirit that worships still at his creech, that kneels today 2,000 years hence, and acknowledges his power, and his nativity is your own. Mary, 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 the mother of goodness, yea, but this precious one is also thy mother, for she has become then a mother of the world, and the great mother of the world herself, in this cultivation of the power of the Spirit, blazes forth her light, and saith unto all mankind, I am thy cosmic mother. I am she who would put an end to all your vain and senseless struggles, and see you, as the carpenter of Nazareth, frame a new world, where day unto day uttereth the speech of Almighty God through thy lips and through thy hands, the mighty sinews of thy arm, as a blacksmith of old then, will forge the divine charm and change the world as its face ought to have been long ago, when they crucified him and drove him from the world of men. But they came not in all their hate and blackness until his hour was come in fulfillment. 33, I say, the great symbol of divine opportunity, the opening up of the straight gate. For when you place together those symbols three, you form the figure 8, symbolical of the divine presence, the great cosmic circle of light above, and the great cosmic circle of light below. The finite fires merging then into unity with a higher, bring about the perfection in men. At the midpoint, the great mediatorship of the Christ, the open door, burning up then the dross, and consuming in the furnace of identity all that is less than perfection. Lo, I am come, the great eternal orchestration. In thy soul I speak, and not in another, but I speak in all hearts. Let those who can hear my voice, hear my voice. For I am one who has made the way of heaven my choice, and without regret I stand, eternally grateful to Almighty God, by whose hand I am enabled to breathe the essence pure of his immortal life, that shall e'er endure, and never, never shall fail. but shall always bring to all the great light and love and mastery and completion which I am. Will ye be less? Will ye then, as simple Simon, take thy line and cast it into the pail of human illusion, sitting as a fool in complete delusion and confusion, when all around you the great universe of consciousness stands waiting to be broken and entered, the seals removed from the doorways of the immortal mysteries, and all truth made known to thee? For God hath loved thee so that thou canst never know, in all this delusion here below, the great power of love that comes and goes as the immortal flame of life flickering on the altar of thy heart. O precious ones, awake, 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 for the time is short for each one in this world. Each embodiment is short, and there is always the voice, celestial calling, while the din here below seeks to drown it out, and the child mind is deluded by illusion. Fraught then with all of this, mankind avoid divine bliss when they might have it for the asking. I come then this night to kindle in you a new flame of resolve. What is resolve but the desire to find solution? And what solution is more complete than to cast thyself as the Christ did at God's feet, and to feel that even here in this footstool kingdom below there is the light, a great outpouring that comes and goes within the heart and will restore and be restoring all that is immortal, imparting then and now the power to conquer mortality. Canst thou? Canst thou? Willst thou? Willst thou? That which thou doest then, do quickly. I thank you, and I bid you the warmth of a good night. Peace be unto thee.
Our beloved Chananda, send we love and adoration. Son of light from heaven's height, with beauty, love, and power, as chief of the Indian council of the great white brotherhood, we call for a new birth to sweep the earth. For in Vienna illuminations flame. Let east and west unite in holy
Blessed ones, I come to you today in memory of the ascended one known to you as beloved Jesus, for I knew him long ago, and I was present in Judea when he walked among mankind in physical form. I saw his stalwart figure loom upon the hills, and I watched fascinated as he so tenderly reached out with the magnetic power of his being to the hearts of mankind clustered around him, who felt the majesty of God in his every gesture and perceived the presence of immortality shining through the outer garment which he wore. The rough hewn exterior of that garment in no way was retained in their minds except to understand the radiance of the Spirit passed through the fibers and threads thereof to hallow every one. And so in your day and age, when an individual did decide to narrate for mankind a significant description of the garment he wore, he brought forth into printed form instruction called the robe. Precious ones, have you thought about the robe you wear today? Have you thought about the effect your thoughts have upon all life about you? Have you pondered to consider the effectiveness of your own mission and ministry to mankind? Have you also thought on what role you can play to effectively bring in the mighty kingdom of light and secure triumph over all the failures of mankind to understand one another? Gracious ones, I come as head of the Indian Council to tell you that the billowing expansion of Christ's accomplishment as it is permitted to flow out into the world of form through those who pay allegiance unto the God of their being is very great and can be amplified far more than mankind are aware of in their first thought about it. For the first thought, precious ones, is a limiting one, wherein previous experience and the criterias of mankind are taken into account. Men then think of themselves not as they can be, but as they were and as they are. But the present hour is soon past, and the future is upon mankind. The past, dimly perceived in the folds of memory, does not always retain all of its faculties of knowing the stream of passing events accurately. And so, with the passage of time, men frequently do not even accurately read their own record, let alone the records of another. In assessing, then, the mighty majesty of the divine light as it is projected through the screen of man's being upon the screen of life, the electronic whirling energies must be considered according to the point of qualification. Mankind do not consider themselves to be qualifiers, but egos. And egos they are, without the benefit of the correct use of those precious egos. To be, esse, to be, to exist, to have consciousness. This is a gracious gift of God. And the ego of man, the I of the I am, the individualized manifestation, is in itself a qualifier of the stream of descending energy from on high that is utilized by each life stream in weaving the garment which they wear. To weave the garment of the Christ is the actual purpose of life for all, and yet individuals ponder their lives as separate and distinct. We are aware of the various facets of life, the types of externalizations men make in the arts, the sciences, in music, and in their service to life. But all have one common aim, one common effort that ought to be made and directed consciously through their thoughts and feelings. Men have pride in lesser aims. Let them now take pride, divine pride, the emulation of God in all that they do, to externalize the Christ raiment around themselves. For the Christ raiment is the fulfillment of the individual mission, and today is the externalization of the law of the Christ right where you are. You need not then revert to a primitive state. You can rise to a pristine state of fulfillment where the mission of God is accomplished through you, utilizing all of the refinements of art and science, all the refinements of being which have come through your own life stream from the very beginning of your first externalization in form to the present hour. The talents of man bestowed upon him as he has utilized divine opportunity through the ages culminate now in the present hour. What will ye do? Will ye fulfill then the mission and opportunity of life, or will you continue to idle the great engines of life and permit energy to flow and be poured upon the earth? This, precious ones, is like holding a lave in your hand, a dipper, a vessel filled with the cool waters of life, and then before the eyes of a thirsting man to cast them out upon the hot desert sands. Someone somewhere is awaiting the fulfillment of your mission. Someone is dependent upon that fulfillment. And I think also that God himself, your own mighty I Am Presence, is dependent upon the fulfillment of your mission in order to bring about the proper placing of the stone of your own identity in the great temple of life. For life is builded brick upon brick as a great temple rising to the stars. And the star of cosmic initiation looms very great. But men, as they sense the rubble beneath their feet, do not realize that the temple of life is raised here 4 square from the foundation base to the apex of the great pyramid. The accomplishment then of God is very great in man when he consciously cooperates with the divine energy which flows through him and holds that energy in proper esteem. When mankind feel that the energy that flows through them is putrid and is muddied and is distorted by some facet of their own mind or feeling, they are unable to qualify that energy with the divine intent. And the scrawny appearance of mortal and mortality appears upon the screen of life. Whereas the towering figure of the Galilean one ought to appear in all. Both men and women can reflect the majesty of the Creator, and it is no desecration. All races can come and understand that the fount of divine illumination is the fount of the soul, flooding forth and welling forth within the heart. Let men then uphold the dignity of the Christ. Let them fulfill in this day and age the mighty fiats of life. Now I come this day as the presiding one of the Indian Council to pinpoint to you that the extreme dangers of the earth not only threaten the abode of the ascended masters in their various retreats in India and Tibet, but also in South America and throughout the world. Desecrations have occurred, and some men have also penetrated into some of our forbidden cities in South America, and some of the discoveries of the ancient past have been revealed to those who ought not to know them. Thus the peril of the world is again increased. The solemn moments when men's thoughts are counted by themselves and they recognize reality and the strands thereof and sever the unreal from the real are important ones. Out of those decisions born by the celestial integrity and intelligence functioning through the prism of the human mind, a proper decision can be made, and men can see themselves as individual components of a vast whole. The good of the whole and the meaning of union then becomes apparent, and the diversifications of men become central to the building of the temple of God in life. The glories of democracy and freedom enshrined in your nation, America, descending from the archives of freedom of the great Brotherhood, are intended to be the forte of all nations. Nations united are intended to be a union of integrity, of grace, of opportunity, of sincerity, and of achievement. So long as war and division is exalted by the nations and in the family of nations, the world stands in peril. The instruments of destruction today capable to mankind continue to become more and more lethal, and thus the meaning of the word, fear not him who hath the power to kill the body, but fear him that hath the power both to kill body and soul. You see, precious ones, thy life is committed to a cosmic integrity, the integrity of being. The great truth of God is the substance of thy soul, and thou wast verily fabricated from the substance of truth. Therefore, if thou didst continually commit thyself to error, it would be to the hurt of thy soul and the casting away of thy opportunity. For all practical purposes, then, an ego or a life stream who continued so to do would, while not subject to the second death in one sense of the word, be effectively taken out of the battle of life by reason of his own non-being. There is such a condition as non-being, precious ones, when man persists in having their own way, so much so that the fabric of being has become all qualified with error. Then, because error has no reality, man has achieved at last the questionable distinction of non-being. And whensoever a life stream elects to lift themselves up by faith to the glow ray of Almighty God and to believe in the destiny of His plan, and then by selection and qualification do bring about the manifestation of some aspect of that plan, then at that moment a thread of being is loomed on the mighty cosmic looms of life, and that life stream has fulfilled a portion of their raison d'etre. Gracious ones, I come to you, and as I address you, I address the entire councils of the Brotherhood throughout the earth. I say to all, mankind today are standing in the gravest peril that has ever been. And while we have uttered in the past some note of reality, some trumpet not so much of alarm as the signal to battle, we renew that request today in the holy name of freedom. Mankind, O mankind, why will you so completely fulfill the round of outer necessity while neglecting the inner? The body of man is constantly waited upon, fed, clothed, watered, and cared for. But the soul of man grows weary, thirsty, and tired, longing for some assuagement by divine decree. We who gaze upon mankind from childhood to old age, physically speaking, we who hear the prayers uttered by mankind in moments of despair, are so completely aware of the dynamic needs of this hour that when we sound forth our voice and our acclaim, declaring to mankind that the time has come to awake and to remain alert, we hope that it will not be a vain going forth of the word. We have drawn energy, O mankind, from on high, and we have drawn energy from below, and we have reinforced that substance to sound in the world body politic a call. This call that goeth forth this day is then a call for this age of commitment. Commitment to the high ideals of cosmic law. Commitment to the high ideals of the ascended masters. Mankind today hear many voices. They hear many words going forth. Some are vain words repeated for gain. Some are repeated for personal appeal. Some are repeated merely as a matter of habit or rote. But I am speaking from none of these levels, but from the level of appeal to the soul. Organizations exist throughout the planetary body devoted to themselves, tickling the ears of mankind with those particular bits of curiosity which they desire to hear. I come with none of this, which I esteem to be no more than trash, but I come with an appeal to the forces of almighty life within your being. It is a question of survival, not only today, but for all ages. For non-being and the deposits made to this but negate the opportunities of mankind until point by point the image of man is erased from reality to a state of non-existence. It does not matter that a thing has life. It is important that everything manifest God's life. Do you see then the extreme importance of recognizing how that the robot consciousness of mankind can function where man is little more than a martinet or little more than a puppet on a string? The world pipes and mankind dances. The voices of the night speak and men linger at their cups and boards, fulfilling their lusts and desires without understanding the meaning of life and its glorious opportunities. Gracious ones, the eyelids ought to now raise and behold God. The eyelids of the heart ought to arise and behold God. For there is an eye in the heart of man, an inner eye of perception that ought to sweep the cosmic realms of light and understand that that which mankind knows is but a little portion of all that God would bestow upon man illumined. And now I have called, ere I came this day, unto the councils of the Brotherhood, to the Karmic Board, to your beloved Saint Germain, to beloved Master Moria L., to the great Temple of Illumination at Lake Titicaca. I call your attention, blessed ones, that some time ago the great golden chain mail was woven from spire to spire throughout the world to set a great protective net between the psychic realm and the realm of the human. Mankind do not understand, and some of those blessed ones who pursue the spiritualistic path do not understand just what has happened since then. They do not understand how that the same contacts cannot be made. And yet I called your attention today that there are numerous individuals continuing to function by penetrating down into their own subconscious mind and the memory of past recordings of contact, and they are bringing forth a great slough of deceit upon mankind, cesspools of discord, sink pools of human hatred, and sink pools of darkness. Man then will rely upon these unreliable channels, those who have absolutely no contact with the divine ideal whatsoever, but bring forth from the realms of darkness and the caves of mortal thought and the ancient records of man's dabbling in psychic phenomena, to eject upon the mankind of earth all of that action which is but a tie to shadow, to pain, and to darkness. The ray of the Christ, the ray of the serene ones, the great pool of light then, where the divine image is reflected, ought to be understood, and the purity of cosmic emotion, as the masters use it, ought to be understood. O mankind of earth, you have watched the display of human emotion. You have seen the maudlin appeals mankind have made to one another on behalf of their causes. Consider and pause then to consider, for just this moment, what it means to stand at our level and to make an appeal to unascended beings caught in the nets of darkness. And yet, as we issue forth this appeal, we do so with a full faith that the law can effectively help you to raise yourself, as it were, by your own bootstraps, unto the point where the law can take a hold of you. You know, precious ones, the great wheel of life functions spiritually very effectively, so that when an individual actually continues a benign momentum over a period of time, that momentum will after a while continue to circulate, tapping the great powers of the universe until it grows and grows in strength, and by it becomes an activity of a great whirling disk of light to raise mankind as upon a platform of light to higher octaves and planes of thought and feeling. Therefore, not only do the bad momentums of mankind have force and power to which mankind give power, but the benign ones do also. And the power of the benign momentums is far greater than the old discordant momentums of mankind that tend to pull men down. O precious ones, as I come then to present the petitions of the Darjeeling Council as well as the Indian Council to you this day, I pray that a new awakening will occur everywhere upon the planetary body, not only by those who hear my voice and my appeal on the outer, but those who, within the recesses of their soul, feel the great impetus, the great pull, the uplift, the awakening to mankind, to harmonize, to unify with their own God self, that they may stand in this day and age complete and equipped for the great battle that is yet to come. For I tell you that since the elements have been given this state of freedom at Easter, there has swept across the earth a tremendous action, which the more observant have noted. I think that you will see as the days unfold and mankind continue to spew out the activities of warfare and destruction, that there will be a greater unleashing of torrents of mankind's recurring karma. The bands of mercy that have held this karmic condition in quietude, relatively speaking, will be unleashed unless mankind will do something effective in the coming days ahead to stay the great karmic power that must be unleashed even in spite of mercy, unless mankind will awaken and will take a greater interest in their soul and in those spiritual graces and gifts which God has given to mankind for the purpose of externalization here and now, to raise him up that great golden stairway of cosmic light and perfection, where the glory of the coming race can shine in the splendid eyes of mankind here embodied, that they may fulfill the purposes of life and may stand in harmony of hearts with one another, the brave fearing not to face the world's attitudes, and standing ready and bold as did the Christ of old. I say to you all, take up then thy cross of light and follow him. It is not to crucify thy mortal form thereon, it is to free thee from that, and see that thou recognize that cross as follows. Symbolically speaking, the horizontal bar is a bar of light symbolizing thy individualized self, and the vertical bar descending shows the great drive of the Most High God down into the very living being of man, penetrating to the depth thereof, to the very nadir of man's world. And the cross, the point where the two come together, is the place where God and man meet, the mercy seat of the Christ, the point of divine intelligence in all those who will understand their reason for life and living, and in that understanding will gain new victories day by day. This is St. Germain's hope. This is El Moria's hope. This is beloved Jesus and Mary's hope. This is your Father's hope, and it is mine. All the shining ones that are with me, whose faces are like the sun, all those in this council, great godly ascended beings, stand with me today in renewed hope that through the power of the angels there shall flow forth enough energy into the world today to quicken the world and stay the hand of the lords of karma, and give further opportunity to this evolution to be able to complete its course with joy. Stop not by the sinister brothers of the shadow. Stop not by mankind's recalcitrance. Stop not by mankind's ignorance. Stop not by mankind's disregard, but rather assisted by reason of those who in their great love for God's plan see that one with him is a majority, and in their great outpouring of light will do for the safety of mankind all that the law in them as love is prone to do. I thank you in the name of God. I thank you in the name of the Darjeeling Council, and I thank you in the name of the Indian Council, and I thank you on behalf of the great white brotherhood, that the effulgent garments of the Lord may expand around the planet as a swaddling garment, that mankind may at least manifest the aspects of the infant Messiah, if they cannot yet manifest the aspects of his mature being. I thank you, and I seal you all in that love which I am, which you are, and which God is, forever and forever and forever. Good afternoon. Ascended Master Kuthumi. May peace be with every heart. The temple bells, here at Kashmir, in gentle ringing tones, speak to our hearts, and the message, ringing clear, flows throughout the terrestrial world and brings the sweet peace of God's love to hearts that are in tune with His fire. I come to instruct this morning and to adorn the hearts of the sons of God, to adorn the hearts of those who love Him with the ascended Master's own feeling of adoration. I would take that feeling springing forth from our heart, and I would engender in you the spirals of our adoration, that you, freed then by that love from the tumult of the world's consciousness, may enter more completely into communion with the angels and the drinking in of their radiant light feeling of adoration toward the Godhead. It is a known fact at our levels that the thoughts and feelings of mankind are such that often the vibratory rate of human discord enters into religious adoration and, shall we say forthrightly to you, dulls the cutting edge of the penetrating and aspiring consciousness. For when mankind are accustomed to the vibratory action of discordant feelings and thoughts, and then quite suddenly enter into a place set apart for adoration, this is a completely different type of vibratory action. And because mankind desire to conform with others of like mind, or those who aspire also to find a sense of adoration within themselves, mankind frequently, in their aspirations, are annoyed at the vibratory action of human memory as it flits out from the being to recall some discordant thought at the exact moment when the attention desires to find its way back to the heart of God. The suppression of this thought may be either simple or difficult, but it must be borne in mind that its cause stems from indulgence at previous times and in other preoccupations of the mind with human discord, so that this action then is a residue in man's thoughts and feelings which will not always lie down or behave itself at the exact moment, precious ones, that you expect it to do so. Therefore, this in itself is an action of the great law of instruction, whereby you recognize that there ought to be no place in the mind and heart of the sincere aspirant for any vibration of human discord whatsoever. I am well aware of the great difficulty for mankind yet unascended to always govern the thoughts and feelings at every moment of their life. After all, precious ones, you are here in this testing ground for a reason, and that reason is involved with your eternal emancipation under God direction. It will then follow as almost a necessity, because of human karmic residue and because of human effluvia, that mankind will be touched by the action of human and mortal discord. Yet I am certain that the very uncomfortable rate of vibration stemming from human discord causes each person indulging therein, who is sincere and illumined to any great degree, to wish and to yearn for the time when they will find their full freedom from that activity. Now then, precious ones, as I am speaking to you in this vein, I desire to step up the tempo of my instruction so that I can touch upon many things of virtue and to assist you to find your freedom here and now. I call to your attention that ere you descended into the world of form, your blessed spirit came down into mortality as a beautiful arrow of light, a descending waterfall of beautiful divine substance, that the purpose of embodiment was, in the words of the descending Master Jesus, "Lo, I am come to do thy will, O God." Hence, the primal purpose of embodiment and of outer creation was the perfection of the Word of God in mortal form. That is to say, the descent of the vibratory action of the Most High God into form, that all space in lower spheres might become hallowed, and then, by the hallowing thereof, raised into a higher manifestation. That which descends then, and is of God, must of necessity desire to do his will. But you see, precious ones, the holy energy that descends is like somewhat an elevator in the process of descent. And I would like you for a moment to recognize the shaft of the elevator, in this case as circular, and realize that this elevator did descend to the plane of human ideation, form, and mortality. In the realm of mortality, this descending elevator, which carried the consciousness of the being of man, did then place him in circumstances far below the divine heights. Mankind then, at one point in his evolution, begun to rise, and so the cage of confinement of consciousness started the process of ascending back to the perfection from whence it came. But I would like to point out that this great shaft of being, in its descent into form, to the very bedrock or plane of the lowest consciousness, was itself destined to rise, and yet, because the being of man is multifaceted, it has not always arisen on every plane or thought or portion of the consciousness. Now I realize that you must closely follow my words in order to derive correctly the understanding of that which I would convey to you today. For I would convey to you that whereas mankind have descended into the world of form and are ascending in the cases of those who have elected to do so back toward the heart of God, and in the cases of those who have not yet elected to do so, but are, shall we say, involuntarily ascending, there is a lesser activity of progress. In other words, the rate of progress of those involuntary ones is far less than those who have consciously elected to seek that they might find. The one is the evolutionary rate of the planet itself and of the total mass evolution. The other is the individual privilege whereby a soul under God direction can elect for itself to seek out the great presence of the Father. Now, blessed ones, I would like for you at this moment to visualize your consciousness as though it were a beautiful white garment with a sheen and radiance of ascended master perfection. Now, the balance of my illustration may seem a bit incongruous, and you will recognize that some of this radiance is trailed into the dust of mankind's being, and some perhaps into the mud or slime of mortal concepts. It is necessary in drawing this analogy that I use the pure white garment, for it is to this that all ought to aspire. And so, regardless of the truth involved here, I choose to maintain the white image even in those aspects below the perfection of Almighty God. Now then, let us consider as though this garment were circular and fit the very bottom of the shaft of this elevator of consciousness. Now you see, precious ones, if the white and pure garment of consciousness were to be at the lowest rung of the ladder, the point to which it had descended, it would lay perfectly flat. But as the consciousness does not progress at all points simultaneously, mankind may arise in consciousness in some portion, whereas other parts may remain at the very bottom of the shaft of consciousness. Now, beloved ones, this creates a garment pattern in the atmosphere, whereby the soft folds of this raiment are falling, and one portion may be very high indeed, whereas the garment may extend down far below. In fact, precious ones, it is not possible for us to think here in terms of that which is perpendicular to the plane of the ellipse, for we must herein recognize that some portions of the consciousness of man's being are so low as to be totally disconnected from the actual garment itself and lie beneath the lowest point of the total garment's consciousness, connected only by a thread so as to identify it with the whole. Now then, when an individual begins to arise and comes to the point where they actually attain their ascension, there is a specific action taking place which I hope to describe to you so that you will comprehend it. Precious ones, you have heard it said that the ascended masters have no organs in their body beneath the heart. Well, using the ascended master image, I would point out to you that this is pure truth, and hence we may find an ascended master at times appearing as though standing in the water and out of the water. The water then refers to the emotional level of man's consciousness, and the upper part refers to the air of attainment. It is then true, precious ones, that even the blessed ascended masters themselves, in their great cosmic honor, when they are given the ascension, sometimes, as they rise, leave behind them the threads of unattained portions of their being. Now, according to the great karmic law and the law of life itself, for all practical purposes, the whole being of the ascended master has attained to its perfection. For, you see, the organs above the heart and the heart itself are raised to the plane of perfection. But the lower parts thereof, even of an ascended being, may remain and be left behind, so to speak, in the world of form. Now then, the master, in his great honoring of the cosmic law, will have this tie to planetary effluvia. He will then have certain elements to be made right even after his ascension, Some of this is involved with personal karma, with unascended individuals. Just because the ascended masters have been given their freedom does not mean that they desire to escape the payment of their just debts to anyone yet unascended. And therefore some of the masters have actually expended a great deal of their energy in the assistance of some individual upon the planet to whom they owed a debt, so that that one would be given their release from human effluvia and raised in consciousness through the process of spiritual elevation. Do you see then, precious ones, the folly of mankind's careless administration of their own life? For, precious ones, there are none anywhere in the universe who can escape the results of their own karmic acts, nor would they, because it is God that has descended into form, and it is his energy that has been misappropriated by mankind. Whenever there is an evil or unworthy act committed. Precious ones, I stand here then in this temple today in order to tell you of these great facts, so that none of you will carelessly permit your life's energy to flow into discordant matrices. For you will redeem at some time, either after your ascension or before, every broken thread, every flaw that has been placed in the garment of life by the weavings of your consciousness. I do not say this to cause you to fear, for men must learn to face life unafraid. I say it to you as a great debt of love from my own being, for I am ever so grateful for the knowledge of the laws of karma that has been imparted unto me as wisdom's perfect way. And it is most unfortunate that in the doctrine of the vicarious atonement, mankind have sought to find a scapegoat in the ascended Master Jesus, my co-world teacher. They have desired to place the sins of the entire world, including themselves, upon his head. And I tell you, he would gladly bear it if the great karmic law would permit. But God has said, as of old, that every man should have his own vine and fig tree. And the consciousness of man is like a vine or a fig tree. It comes forth from the true Father of all, and the branches and leaves upon one's own vine are under the direction and control of their being, either consciously or unconsciously. And the entire and total flow of the sap, the energy, the life into each form is for the productivity of soul evolution, and that the life stream may attain to a degree of recompense whereby all who utilize their talents for and on behalf of life will be given greater power and honor, responsibility in life than that previously given to them. Because then the stakes and honors are both very high. God expects and demands of mankind, according to their free will, the fullness of their being, if they are to reap the fullness of their reward. The sins of one cannot be justly laid then upon another, and the doctrine of atonement is not actually completely understood at all by many, for it is in truth a doctrine of at-one-ment, whereby an individual comes into oneness with his own mighty I Am presence, sits beneath his own vine and fig tree, purifies his own consciousness and world, and becomes one with the Father. The words of the Christ then ring more clearly still. I and my Father are one. When mankind is one, precious ones, with his own mighty I Am presence, he has no desire except to be the perfection of the law in action. he will find no incompatibility then with this idea of making all things right, for all things came forth from God, and God himself is involved in the intricacies of his creation. Surely then, so long as there remains one single blot or injustice in the universe, God himself will not rest until all perfection passes through his flame, until all imperfection passes through his flame and becomes perfection. Do you see then, gracious ones, how that this is really in truth a simple action of the law, but it is rather difficult for man to understand in one sense how that they have simultaneously acting in their worlds many levels of consciousness. Individuals have great intelligence and comprehension of the physical world. They are able to understand the objective sciences, yet often they cannot probe or realize the actions of their own emotional body. Hence you will find individuals who are most intellectual, who sometimes, under the right circumstances, have little or no emotional control, and will actually cut off themselves from contact with the most blessed individuals, simply because of an emotional whim which comes to their being, which may indeed lack no validity whatsoever. Precious ones, do you recognize then how carefully the plans of God for the emancipation of man have been laid? Every effort in heaven and earth has been bended so as to conspire for the freedom of man, but often great neglect enters into the lives of many. This neglect is most subtle. Individuals frequently feel, because they pay a certain allegiance to God and comprehend certain of his laws, that they are doing all that the law requires for their freedom. But they have neglected to recognize that they exist simultaneously at many levels of consciousness. And while they have redeemed one level from the pit, as it were, of descent, and have raised it up above the navel, up into the region of the heart, and then toward the head, toward Christ's attainment, they have not raised other portions of their being, and therefore they are part man and part God. The urges and demi-urges continue to flow, and mankind are disturbed constantly by the subterranean areas of their own being. Now then, when the freedom of man is contemplated, you must understand why it is necessary to have the disciplines of such wise masters as Serapis and as your beloved El Moria. For man requires the cutting edge of their razor-sharp consciousness in order to actually cut themselves free from the root entanglements of their being in densities beneath the level of their manifest attainment. I think that as you ponder more upon my words, you will recognize that they stem from pure wholeness of being. My wholeness, attained at great price, is also one for which I extend to God the fullness of my gratitude. I was once embroiled in outer turmoil and conflict. I was at one time, as some of you know, in my Franciscan embodiment, when embodied as St. Francis, somewhat of a gross libertine, and my life expression was, so to speak, dedicated to wine, women, and song. From that I turned abruptly at right angles, and I completely reversed myself ultimately to become in the eyes of men one whom they have deigned to call the divine Pavellero, and I deem myself even to this hour unworthy of being the divine Pavellero, for although I gave my all to the sweet sky and to the God that created that sky, I yet retain the realization of his great mercy and the depth thereof, which flowed unto me to change me from the darkness of my being into areas of great light, whereby I could attain an enrapport with the birds of the air, with nature, with my fellow men, and with all the harmonies that ring in the celestial spheres. Now then, as you pause to reflect upon your own being, mankind, recognize, I pray thee, the great immortal love that called to me in the depths of my despair and human misery. Recognize that power and realize that the self-same dignity of God that descended to my level then is also working with mankind today in their unascended state and assisting them to rise at all levels, not only the level of the intellect, where intellectual comprehension is possible, but at the level of the feeling world, where the love can be expanded, devoid of self-interest and mortality. Expressing then the gentle freedom of a flower which exists solely in space to purify the air and to send forth the love of God and the beauty of God for the elementals and man to behold, and perisheth and fadeth away as in a moment. Do you see then, precious ones, how that your life is actually charged with so much glory, so much fragrance, so much opportunity? To you is given the wonders of the Father's many mansions for eternity. Room by room you may explore these mansions. Hour by hour you may expand your consciousness. Grace by grace you may perceive him and partake of his sacred body. I tell you then that if you will pause to give gratitude for life and all of its glory, you will find that your understanding will increase. This gratitude cannot be merely for your own life in its minutiae, its finite form, its name, its fame, its location in your own individualized manifest being. Your gratitude must be for the great progressive reaches of your being, that which is beyond yourself, your own God presence, the forerunner holding the blazing torch, that even here below, in the cave of materiality, sheds its light abroad. The span of prehistoric ages, the densities of consciousness, the struggles, the sins of mankind, the wickedness of men, the hiding within the dark caves and recesses of being, must all be brought into the open, cast to the torch and consumed. And mankind must gladly, freely, willingly cut the ties that lead them into the ways of destruction. They must recognize that their being in ascending will carry up all that is connected to the wondrous cloth of being, that which can be consciously and by contact connected with man's being can be raised, so that when man ascends as a beautiful cloth, and the highest point of this cloth passes in to the glories and rapture of the ascension, the whole trailing garment is lifted upward, and the only part that does not ascend is that connected by these tiny skeins of light, the broken levels of consciousness which have not come up and remain submerged in ages even below your appreciative consciousness. You cannot even conceive, O mankind, the aeons of being that are involved in this descent. And yet, every level of consciousness must ultimately be transmuted, for Christ did descend into hell, into the depths, in order that he might raise life. Thus, precious ones, the more you ascend in consciousness to the heart of God, must you realize that every thread of being must be redeemed, whether your own or another's. And with God this is possible, and it can be, and it shall be. But until mankind are aware of it, oftentimes they do not understand the discordant urges that sometimes pull them down traumatically and cause them great distress of being. I tell you then that you must today realize that your whole being must aspire to the ascension of consciousness and being, but you must also do all that is within your power to avoid the creation of unnecessary karmic offense against any part of life. For you are assisted in many ways, through your decrees, through your prayers, through your aspirations, through your walk with the ascended masters, through your love given to the ascended Master Jesus and myself and to others of the great white brotherhood, through your service to life unascended, through your service to the elementals, through also the transmutation of the error in your word, and last but not least, you are assisted by the ferreting out of some of the subterranean levels of being and blazing the violet flame into those areas, and then cutting that substance loose and transmuting it into the sacred fire, raising also the lower aspects of being back toward God. For as each part of life ascends back to God, whether it be a little fragile violet plant or what it may be, it is an assistance to the whole universe. For God has descended into form through Christ, the light of man's being, that he may ascend back every part, every portion. Thus shall that arrow of blazing light that descended, free from the muck of the ungrund, the uncreated, rise into the spirals of purity and blaze its trail back to the heart of God. Thus all things shall be raised, and ye also shall rejoice in your acceptance of God's cosmic honor flame that honors his purity, honors his justice, honors his law, honors balance, honors grace, and extends its gratitude across the eternal span. I thank you.